Welcome, mayors. We are glad you joined us for the second session of the 2023 Economic Mobility Leadership Institute mayoral cohort. My name is Stacy Fuji, and I'm with the African American Mayors Association. We have a couple of housekeeping items to consider. First, you will receive a short survey at the end of this session, and they'll come at the end of each month. We ask that you fill them out and send them back immediately so we can know what you need and how we can improve. Second, by now you should have received an invitation to our private LinkedIn group for Emily. It is for our mayor cohort only. This will be a place where you can share information, and we will share products with you from our panelists and discussions. You may also choose to continue your conversations there. Please accept the invitation or let Darian or me know if you did not get that invitation. Thank you. Now, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our CEO, Phyllis Dickerson, for the welcome.
Thank you, Stacy. Welcome, mayors, to Emily's second session. It's great to see everyone. As you know, AMA's Economic Mobility Leadership Institute is focusing on critical learning opportunities for mayors and their teams, with the goal of creating strategic economic mobility plans to implement in your respective municipalities. Today's session will continue from our previous discussion about building wealth in our communities. This hour-long session will provide insight or data, as well as share necessary and helpful tools available to develop greater opportunities for wealth creation in your communities.
Thank you, Phyllis. Well, today, our partners from the Black Wealth Data Center will lead us in a presentation detailing their work around using data to drive racial wealth equity in the United States. After our Black Wealth Data Center presentation, we will proceed with our panel discussion with our esteemed partners from Mocify and ServiceNow. Please remember to use the chat feature to ask questions throughout the session. Without further ado, let's begin. The Black Wealth Data Center is building a comprehensive repository for Black wealth data. Their racial wealth equity database aims to empower decision makers with reliable data and raise the national standard for data collection and accessibility. This program area aims to increase generational wealth and address systematic underinvestment in Black communities. Today, we have Natalie Evans-Harris, Executive Director of the Black Data Wealth Center. Please welcome Natalie Evans-Harris to the Economic Mobility Leadership Institute.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Phyllis, and thank you all for having me. My name is Natalie Evans-Harris, and I'm excited to talk to you all today about what it means to measure wealth equity and disparities in your communities. Let me share my screen. By all means, please post questions as we talk in the chat. If I see them, I will answer them, but I'll also leave time at the end for questions if anybody has any, and ways to reach out to us if you want to talk more. So when we think about measuring wealth in Black communities, what are we really, why is this so critical? Why am I doing this work? Why was this center founded? We're a new center that launched in September of 2022, so less than 6 months ago. And it really started, and I'm really here because I've spent nearly 20 years thinking about, talking about, and working in the space of using data to improve our understanding of what is happening in our communities. I did it throughout my career with National Security Agency. I had the fortune of working on the Hill with Senator Cory Booker, and then had the opportunity to work under President Obama as a senior policy advisor, advancing and improving the ability of the federal government to be able to use data towards mission, and keeping in mind that this data does really represent our people. And so how do we use it equitably and responsibly? Had the opportunity to start my own company, Bright Hive, which was a social impact organization focused on helping states and local government be able to use and share data to answer those hard questions around what your community needs for wealth and health. Also had the opportunity to work under President Biden most recently as a senior technology advisor to Secretary Gina Raimondo. All of that centered around how do we use data and get data into the hands of the people that need it most. When the opportunity came to be able to form a racial wealth equity database centered around bringing the data about our people into the conversation, how could I say no? How could I say no to helping people who want to use data to address racial wealth equity and disparities, get the data they need to develop the solutions to these problems? But it's more than just the data, right? It's also about how do we make that actionable? How do we develop the tools necessary to help you and those that work with you to be able to understand and advance and address the systemic barriers to all of our people being able to accumulate wealth? This is where the Black Wealth Data Center sits. We fully recognize that there is a lot of data out there. It's in a number of places, and it takes a tremendous amount of time to access and transform that data to make it usable. So what we want to do is take that data. All of these are the most popular sets that we've been able to identify, federal level open data sets that are used regularly to talk about wealth, racial wealth, Black wealth, what is happening in our communities and with our economy. And we took those data sets and formed the Racial Wealth Equity Database. What I want to do today is show you some of the things that you can do with our platform. I won't be able to demo it live, but if you are looking for a live demo, we are happy to do that for you and with you. And we'll provide the contact information to Stacy to allow for that to happen. Our Racial Wealth Equity Database is the bread and butter. It's the ground in which the Black Wealth Data Center holds itself accountable and works with communities to get that data out there. But our charge is more than just creating access to that Black wealth, to that data around wealth in our communities. It's also about fueling those data-driven solutions. So as our center evolves, as we get more data into the platform and increase the robustness of it, you'll also see tools that help you to understand what is happening in your counties, what is happening in your communities down to the zip code level, and tools that help you ideate, inspire ways that we can address and improve the numbers in our communities. We also want to highlight where are the gaps. We know that there isn't a lot of data out there for some of our communities. So we as a center want to advance the state of Black wealth data by working with you to identify where the gaps are and how can we get more data out there? Because if we can't measure it, how do we know that we're truly equitable? If we can't get beyond the qualitative stories, how do we know that the programs and the solutions that we've put in place are making a true difference in addressing those systemic barriers? These are the things that I want to do with the center. These are the things that I want to work with you to be able to do. So happy and excited to show you some of the things that you can learn about through our platform. This visualization, if you go to blackwealthdata.org, you go under our Explore Data pages, you'll find this under Assets and Debts. This is a graphic at a national level that shows you that when it comes to asset accumulation, white people are doing a great job. Black people need some help. So how do we help them? And this is over total assets. If you want to dive deeper into what types of assets are we accumulating and what types of assets others are accumulating, you can go by asset type. You can do the same thing for debts. I didn't create a graphic for that one, but you can see on our pages, you can see through our visualizations where we're accumulating assets and where we're not, where we're accumulating debt, credit card debt, and where we're not. Some debt is good debt, education debt, some debt isn't. These are the types of questions and information that we want to be able to provide in as user-friendly and interactive a mode as possible. But you also want to be able to dive deeper. You want to be able to see information about your cities, about your counties, about your states. And we're allowing you to do that through our filters and through our and through being able to interact with our graphics. I should also point out that every single one of our visualizations is downloadable. So you can take it, you can post it on social media, you can incorporate it into reports and presentations. We want you to use this data. So we want to make it as easy as possible for you to do so. We also provide sourcing for the visualizations so that you know where the data came from and what we did to create these graphics. You'll also find methodologies and all of the information you need to back up the information that's being shared through these visualizations. So when you look at something like percentage of population in poverty, you'll see for an area like Charlotte, when you compare two zip codes and see what is happening for Black communities in those two zip codes, you begin to see some of the disparities. You'll see that in the zip code on the right, it's 66.9% of the population is Black, and they're experiencing an 18.5% of the population in poverty. That's different from the zip code on the left, which has a far lower percentage of Black population and a far lower percentage of that population in poverty. What you'll also learn through our platform are things like, what does it look like for broadband access by zip code? We've presented this one by county so that you'll see in Westchester County, New York, that it has a 14.8% of its county populated by Black households. And of those households, totally it's 91.7%. And actually, if you look across these numbers, majority of the households have broadband access, but there's a very slight gap when it comes to Black households with broadband internet subscriptions. Maybe not something to worry about, but definitely something to maybe think about as you think about equity and whether everybody has access to the broadband they need to thrive. When we think about percentage of income spent on rents and household, you'll see that you can go down to the zip code level. And it illuminates things like, where are the majority of the Black populations and what are they experiencing when it comes to the amount of money that they are spending on rent? If you look at the zip code on the left, which has the majority of the Black population, almost 90%, many of them are spending nearly 40% of their income on their rent, but they're only making about $28,000 a year median. But if you look at the zip code on the right, 6.6% Black population, spending 25% on their rent, but look at their median income, far greater, far greater. So when you think about those percentages and you think about what they're experiencing in their households, you begin to see where the disparities may lie. That is the information that we want you to be able to learn and use as you think about what policies and programs you want to present in your communities. This one is showing owner-occupied homes with mortgages. Very straightforward. I think you get the gist of what we're trying to do through these interactions. And I should also point out, we not only present maps, we also have bar charts, graphics that go from national, state, county, down to zip. We want you to be able to learn as much as possible and be able to do those comparisons. Finally, I'm really excited about this one because this one, when you think about home ownership and home ownership as a wealth asset, you want to know, is that home built in a safe area? Is that home going to continue to exist? So one of the things we wanted to be able to highlight is bringing together Black households, Black home ownership tied together with something called the Social Vulnerability Index. The Social Vulnerability Index is something produced by this CDC, the Center for Disease Control. And what it highlights is vulnerabilities of communities to environmental disasters. Think about the water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi. Think about Hurricane Katrina. These are things that are natural disasters that have different impacts on different communities. So when you think about homes as an asset, you want to know, how susceptible is it to health, environmental, or economic disasters? And are you seeing a disparity in that risk based upon the race of the people that live there? These are the things that we want and need to know. And we want to provide the data and information for you to be able to understand and make decisions accordingly. And it's good, and it's great news sometimes, not so great news other times, but the information is necessary and critical if we want to begin to address those systemic barriers. We didn't create a graphic in here for another tool that we have on our platform called our indicator, our Black Wealth Indicator tool. I highly recommend you go out and check out this tool. What it does is across a set of indicators of wealth, show you and allow you to compare county to county or county to national. So you can see how you're doing compared to another county or compared to national averages across a number of wealth indicators. If I can pull it up, I'm happy to pull it up, but I also recommend you go out and check out the site. I can't show you everything. There's just so much out there. But what you can learn is things about assets and debts, education, home ownership, entrepreneurship, employment, and population. You can learn about all of these things and its relationship to wealth and how we're doing both as Black communities and across racial wealth communities. Because it's important to know how we're doing and how others are doing as well. Happy to talk more, happy to work with you, happy to help with technical assistance, grants, data sharing agreements. We're starting to work with some states and counties to share data to help you create your own local dashboards, because we can only do so much. So while we're looking to start a national conversation, we know the real work is happening at the local level. So how do we help? How do we get our data into your hands in a way that can help you do what you do and do it well? We do more than this. We're young and we're excited, and we want to do all that we can to be a resource for you. Thank you for your time. I think that was 20 minutes. So Stacy, Phyllis, do I open it up for questions?
Yes, I think you have a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, okay. Let me pull up the chat. This is where it always gets funky for me, shared screen and chat.
Yeah, unshare.
Oh, I can read the question for you. So there was a question from Mayor Jackson of Beverly Hills, Missouri. He asked, how is this like or unlike our master land use plan? And how can this data work in concert with our master land use plan?
I don't know what your master land use plan is. If I could get a little brief summary of it, I can talk about it.
Well, our master land use plan, this is Mayor Jackson, City of Beverly Hills. Our master land use plan covers our whole 24-1 area, which is 23 communities in one school district. So it's 23 small cities within school district. They all have their own mayor. So I work with 22 other mayors. And so that master land use plan, we all went together to do that. PGVA was a company that was a firm that did that for us in the state of Missouri. It is a state statute that your city must have a master land use plan, and what's in it are all the demographics, who lives there, what businesses are there, what institutions are there, whether it be universities or schools or churches, all that's in there, the median income, all those things are in there, the breakdown of the population, white, Black, Asian, and what have you, disposable income, all those things are within that data. And so that's why I was wondering, is there something different about this data that can be correlated with that, and probably we can ferret out some other information from it. Thank you.
Yep, it sounds like it. So it sounds like the data that we have in our platform can enrich your master land use plan, enrich it by showing you comparisons of the data that you have at your school district level, and compare it nationally or compare it across the different zip codes. So it sounds like this can enrich. The other thing I would offer is, as a center, we keep our data as recent as that data set. So for instance, we have Census's American Community Survey data in our platform. They just released their latest data set for 2021. And we are putting that into our platform now, and it'll be available within the next couple of months. So we're doing a new release, and it will be available then. So what you'll have is an ability to take your master land use plan, and maybe we can make it a little easier to update that plan as you need to update it. We can definitely enrich that plan. And you know, when you come to our platform, that you will have the latest data related to the things that you're looking to measure and accumulate data around.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All righty, Stacey, you ready?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Natalie. That was very informative, and we genuinely appreciate your presentation. Mayors, we will make Natalie's contact information available to you to gain more information about your respective cities. We will now begin the second half of our wealth session, discussing some of the necessary financial and digital literacy tools available to you. We have with us today, as part of our distinguished panel, Wole Coxum, CEO of Mocify, a financial technology platform, or fintech, committed to closing the wealth gap for Black, Latinx, and all communities disconnected from the mainstream economy. We also have Nicole Francis Reynolds, Vice President and Head of Global Government Relations for ServiceNow, offering a digital platform for a fast-changing world built to optimize processes, make work more intuitive, and create new value. Today's panel discussion is moderated by our CEO, Phyllis Dickerson. Please take it away, Phyllis.
Thank you, Stacey. We have two amazing individuals joining us today for our discussion. Thank you for being here, Wole and Nicole. A very key component of Emily Mayoral cohort is for mayors to create a strategic plan that incorporates financial tools for their constituents to improve their financial standing. During our previous session, our mayors discussed what it means to be wealthy. We had different answers, which tended to vary with age and experience. Both of your companies offer unique products and tools and value for our community. So, first question, in your current role, what do you see as the greatest barrier to building wealth in the African-American community, and how can your products help address this? Nicole, you wanna go, ladies first?
Thank you, and thank you so much, President Dickerson, and to all the mayors with the African American Mayors Association for having us. We are a proud partner, corporate partner of AMA, and are just thankful for this opportunity to talk about this critically important topic. We believe that one of the components that help build wealth is access to information. You know, our CEO is Bill McDermott. We have over 21,000 employees around the world, and we are a platform company where our software modernizes processes for governments and enterprises, companies, end to end. And with that, we know that 42 million, and this is according to the FCC, the Pew Research Center, and an organization called Broadband Now, that 42 million people, which includes 34% of those that are Black households, 60% of healthcare facilities, 40% of American schools, and 30% of rural Americans lack access to information. So without information, you won't know about Mocify, right? Without access to the internet, you may not have access to Mocify and other products. And so the software that we provide and the platform that we have helps governments provide access to broadband. Now that we know that $65 billion has been allocated to states and cities and towns and counties to expand broadband to those areas that don't have them. And once that takes place, once our communities have access to broadband, they will then have access to websites, access to city services. Cities are clamoring to find out how best to modernize their technology to deliver citizen services in a much more efficient way, to access the Wall Street Journal, to access the local newspaper to find out what's happening. Are schools closed today? Or where's this summer program for our children? Or how can I sign up or get this stock or get the Mocafy card powered by MasterCard? How do we do those things without access to information? So access to technology is critically important, a critically important step toward building wealth.
I'm so glad you shared that, because in our community, sometimes it's just passing the information while you're walking down the street or sitting on the porch and that kind of thing. So Wale, same question.
No, first, before I answer the question, I want to say what a privilege it is. First, President Dickerson, to be a part of the work that you're doing, and then the chance to share with this distinguished cohort of mayors the work that we're doing. So thank you, and to Nicole, who's been a part of our journey since the beginning. Pleasure to be on the panel with you. So what's been the challenge for wealth creation in the Black community from our perspective is the fact that financial institutions have not seen the African-American market as one that has rich potential, and they have not built products and services to take advantage of the dollars that we have in our communities, and committed to keeping those dollars staying in our communities, which can drive more and more wealth. My personal background, I spent 25 years at big banks, JP Morgan, Citigroup amongst them, became one of the most senior people at JP Morgan, and felt that we were having lots of conversations about what the issues were in the Black community, but there was no real initiative around how to create products that represent the needs of the Black community, because the business model didn't support that. So I decided, and the business model being branch-based banking requires that you have the excess deposits in your account so that the banks can lend the money to somebody who wants to buy a home and other things. So many times in our communities, we have more month than money, whereby the dollars, the banks say, geez, we can't make our margin for with the Black community, with the Black customer. They don't say it explicitly, but when 80% of the bank branches that have closed in this country have been in low and moderate income communities over the last 10 years, they're leaving our communities, right? So as a result, we've been left with the payday lenders, the check cashers, the pawn shops, and those are just wealth destroyers. They're pulling dollars out of our communities. When you've got to pay somebody to get access to your own money, that makes no sense. Some Black families spend more money on excess banking fees than they do on food. If we were able to change the game on that and say, you know what, you can keep your access to your own money. It doesn't cost you money to get your money. You can give people a 3% raise. That's what Mocafy is all about. A couple others, just interesting statistics, and the work that the Greenwood initiative with Bloomberg is so important, because you can track the positive impact over time. I think that's the power of it. Let's level set where we are with our communities, but a couple of interesting statistics. One, only 25% of Black families have a credit score greater than 700. Now, you can't tell me that Black families aren't creditworthy, but there are structural things that exist that prevent our responsible financial behaviors, such as rent payments, for example, being reported to the credit bureaus, reflected in our credit score. And if you don't have a strong credit score, you do not have the ability to sometimes get a job, because if your credit score is low, a bank's not going to hire you. It may prevent you from getting low-cost insurance because they look at your credit score. And if you have a low credit score, they're not going to give you low-cost insurance. And they're certainly not going to give you a loan to buy a house. So that's one important component. The other important, this is an interesting statistic, 50+% of Black families are either unbanked or underbanked. Therefore, they spend more money on the service. Anyway, so that's the backdrop. That's why wealth creation is so challenging, because there are structural things that prevent that from happening. So we as a company have reimagined banking services that's geared towards our target customer base. And what that means is using technology that allows us to have a low cost, free banking platform for individuals, so they don't have to get a fee to get their own money, and they get a quality product that's equal to what they would get if they went to a traditional branch-based bank. And at the same time, we believe that partnering with cities, with each of you who have the ability to use your platform to get services to people very efficiently, financial services, which we'll dig into in a little bit, on our platform. And then we use our platform to get emergency rental assistance dollars out. We use our platform to get universal basic income programs, workforce dollars, and then we use that as a on-ramp to introduce people to traditional banking services that we provide that's geared towards the individuals. And we also do it in partnership, not just with municipal government, but with the community-based organizations that have got the credibility and the trust. So when a rectify shows up with a Birmingham, it shows up with a urban league in that community, or in St. Louis, rectify, and we're able to reimagine the paradigm and start bringing some quality tools to our communities to change this wealth gap that's got to change. And I feel very strongly about that. And we'll get into details about how we can make those changes together.
Great information. I'm glad you brought up the correlation between like even insurance and your credit score. Because me personally, I didn't even know there was a correlation until I bought I think my second or third car. And I was sitting in the dealership and they called to verify that I had car insurance. And my insurance guy said, "Phyllis, are you buying a car? We can finance you at a lower interest rate." And I was like, "How do you know?" He said, "Based on your credit score." And I was thinking, how do you know my credit score? But I didn't even realize that there was a correlation between the two. So that's great information for our listeners. So you guys, what's the one idea or concept you wish people knew or understood about building or improving their financial standing, Nicole?
I go back to, and that's a fantastic question, access to information. Okay. And the value of cities is that cities, as they modernize their technology, they can provide services through various apps. I know the mayor of Beverly Hills is on. In Santa Monica, the city is using an app that we have called 311, so that citizens can use their phones if they want to know what's happening in the city. Are there jobs available that the city has? Do I need to register to have my heavy trash picked up, or is there a deer in the road? But having access to information then allows you to use the rectify app. You can pull down your credit, you can check your credit score through the various apps. You can read the papers to find out what's happening. And, I didn't know anything about a company called NVIDIA until I heard some people talking about it while I was on vacation with my family 2 years ago. And I used my phone and looked it up, found an article about NVIDIA, and I heard these people talking about, we need to buy the stock, we need to buy the stock. And I think back then it might've been 100 and something. So I thought, well, when I scrape my pennies together, because the children take up all the money, right? So I said, I'm gonna get them some NVIDIA and help them understand what it is. And so without these tools, without understanding what's happening in the world, we're using our phones for almost everything now. So understanding what's happening in your cities are partnering with companies to offer summer jobs. Cities have jobs, rectify has jobs. And the more access that we have to information, the better our credit scores will become. You'll get a reminder on your phone that says, reminder, your car note is due in 3 days, or your credit card is due, or, oh, your score went down. Well, why did it go down? Oh, I forgot to pay the bill 3 weeks ago when it was due. You'll know when these, your credit card companies are doing their reporting, right? You learn more with information, and we have to stop being so shy or reticent about reading that. We read everything else, right? But we have to read things about what will take care of ourselves and that we can prepare the next generation. And so we are working with cities like Atlanta. They're using our 311 app so that if there is some sort of issue going on in the city, and a notice can go out to everyone who's using that app. If you need to renew your driver's license, if you want, again, a summer job for your children, or or you want to work for the city, want to do some sort of, there's a partnership for STEM training, whatever that is, access to information is power. And through technology, we can get to these places and, higher credit scores and, qualify for the extra, the lower interest rate. That's part of this process.
Great. And what do you offer? I think you do, because I've talked about it with some of your team members. Do you offer financial literacy tools like labs targeted for youth and single parents or the elderly? Kind of talk about some of the tools that you guys offer.
We do. That's thank you for that. And I think again, our model is working with cities and working in partnership with community-based organizations. And I'm proud of three examples, Phil, so I'll give you on that point. So one is, so we're partnering with the Urban League, the National Urban League. They've got financial coaches who are, first-rate, well-informed part of the community. They're using our platform. We've got something called the Blueprint, and the Blueprint actually allows you to create your own personal dashboard that has your assets, your liabilities. It allows you to do the budgeting. It's got some financial literacy. You can see your credit score. You can play around with, well, if I pay this bill, what will the impact be? And it allows an individual to then have all of his or her information available real time, because it's in an app. We're able to update their financial profile on a real-time basis, and they can sit down with their Urban League financial coach and talk about how they're doing. And we're going to support several hundred clients in Virginia Beach, Pittsburgh, Newark, Atlanta, Louisville, where if the individual hits a certain savings rate, they're going to get matched another $300 for participating in the program. So that's one example. Again, Urban League in Atlanta, we've been doing a youth build program that provides youth ages 16 to 24 with services that help them get their GED or high school diploma, as well as some job readiness, leadership training. And so if you complete a certain portion of the program, your dollars are put into your Mocafy account. And the third thing we've done is we've created this thing called On Our Block. And I'm so proud of this. We've done it in St. Louis. We've got one happening in Los Angeles this coming weekend. And we're going to be in several cities across the country over the course of year, Birmingham and others. And any mayor here that like to talk about it, let's talk more about it. But what we're doing is we're bringing banking services to community. It's called On Our Block. We'll do a pop-up where we bring our financial coaches. We have got all these banks, insurance companies, and investment firms who know they want to help the Black community but don't know how to enter the Black community. We partner with them, and they bring their folks. And we have food. We hook up and bring a DJ. We have some conversation, broadly speaking, with folks about what they're interested in from a financial literacy perspective. And then we have a breakout. We have opportunities for one-on-ones where they can talk about their issues and personal concerns. And then we continue the conversation with them virtually where they have access to our resources. So we're very committed to bringing tools and information where people are, leveraging cities, leveraging the community-based organizations that folks trust.
Love that. Nicole, do you have anything to add to that conversation?
That is a lot, and it's amazing. And I think we just need to soak it all up and take advantage of these great opportunities. And it also highlights the importance of partnerships. You've heard Wale talk about the National Urban League, and they are doing some tremendous work in communities across the country. And we should take advantage of all of the information and the programs and resources that are available.
Perfect. And Nicole, while you were talking, what's your organization's commitment or long-term plan to build wealth in underserved communities? Sometimes we say underserved. For us, we're unapologetically Black. So let's just say Black communities. How will you measure and collect that data?
So in several ways. One is that our CEO understands the importance of increasing diversity within ServiceNow. Because then when our HR department and our chief diversity officer is Karen Pavlin, you know, there's a real commitment to bringing more people who look like us, Black and brown people. So that's one step, right, toward building wealth, because then if we are earning what we're supposed to earn, if we're doing the work, we will be rewarded. And then we learn more and more about how to build wealth in our communities. Because then you get the bonuses if you do your job properly, you get the stock, and then you learn more about stock and how to leverage that for your, you know, for wealth building. So that's the first. And look, we have to bring each other along. There are very few people in these spaces where we are. As head of global government relations, I am so privileged and honored to have this sort of role, blessed to have the role. And so I take it seriously. And when I have the opportunity to hire, I make sure that I am bringing people along. I don't have that mindset where there only has to be one, right? As if there isn't room for others. We have to uplift each other and bring each other along so that those who we bring along, we help train. We take what we've learned from working in corporate America. We help provide bonuses and stock options and all those things to people who look like us too. And sometimes you have to have those hard conversations at the table. And you say with respect, let's make sure that this candidate pool reflects us. Let's make sure the candidate pool reflects Latin America and Asian American, and make sure that they're all qualified. They must be qualified, right? And that they do the work. And we help them adjust or be their best selves in these sorts of environments. You hear all these words about organizational development and how to execute. Well, we have to learn. We were taught get a good education, right? And your parents say, well, you're on your own, get your good education and stay at your job for 30 years and get your watch or your, you know, get your paperweight, and then you've got this. But we also have to learn what it means to thrive in a system that we traditionally weren't part of. So that's part of wealth and information building. And that's what we're doing at ServiceNow. Training, we have a program called Next Gen, where we are working with colleges and universities, community colleges, to integrate curriculum around app development. So the STEM, you know, think about all these apps that we have on our phones. There are going to be millions more that need to be developed over the next, our CEO talks about it, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. What's the next Instacart? What's the next Experian app? What's the next Mocify? Mocify is going to have to modernize its app probably over the next several years, right? So who's developing this? And you need developers. And so we work with colleges, and we have to say, because of where we sit, oh, Tuskegee has a great engineering program, right? You know, Miles College in Birmingham has a great engineering program, or Benedict College, where ServiceNow gave $1 million to help modernize their, you know, computer science and information technology. So Next Gen program is what we're doing to partner with more and more schools to give them the curriculum so that they actually take the course, they get a certificate, then they're eligible for internships and jobs. I've heard lots of professors say, oh, these tech companies come in and they have a program, girls can code, dogs can code, and that's all. So we also have jobs. And that's what we have to do and provide so that we're building wealth that way. And then also we have a new program we announced a couple months ago called Rise Up, where for free, and we're going to learn more and more about this program, but our CEO wants 1 million people to learn ServiceNow's platform and learn how to build on it, because mayors may want an app for some other citizen service, you know, that it wants to deliver. You know, we had a meeting recently with Mayor Adams where he said, you know, citizens have to go to different agencies to get things done. They have to put their info in every time, and that's old. Right? We want to be like the Apple ID where you just put it in and all your subscriptions are part of it. How can we modernize cities so that they have better citizen services? So Rise Up. And then finally, philanthropy. ServiceNow recently announced, I think it's been 1 year now, where we are investing $100 million? I think it's $100 million into Black communities. And that's to foster entrepreneurship, home ownership, et cetera. And then working with organizations like Urban League and others, you know, there are already people who have their business plans together, or working with Black banks, which is what this program works with as well, to identify families who might need to refinance their homes, to get a mortgage. They're already qualified and ready. And so we are implementing that program. It is $100 million. We announced it last year, and we're doing that and monitoring the metrics behind that. And one of the things we did say, because our folks at ServiceNow wanted us to make sure we promote it, we said, well, let's tweak this press release, because we also need to make sure those dollars are not just housed at RBC Bank, they need to also be housed within Black banks. Because if you're going to announce this program, people are going to want to know, well, where do we get these dollars? Well, go to RBC Bank. Well, that's in Canada, right? And so we've got to partner with Black banks, and that's what they're doing. So I love that they listen to us. I love that we know how to deliver these messages so that they resonate and we have results. And then we see the full circle where people are actually building wealth and achieving getting these opportunities so that they too can thrive.
I love that answer, because what I heard was you guys are being intentional.
Mm-hmm. And what I love, Phyllis, in terms of your comments about being unapologetically Black, that's critically important. And I think to build on Nicole's point, and I want to answer Mayor Jackson's question, we're actually going to be in St. Louis. The team is going to be there next week. And I'm hopeful maybe we can find some time to visit with you, because one of the things we're actually in the process of doing is, and we talked about data, can we create a credit product that doesn't exploit somebody, but helps move them forward because we all have it, right? There's always a moment in our life when the money doesn't come just when you expect it. And you can see your way next week, the week after, next month, but you need some help in the short term. So we're actually, we're literally, Janitra Taylor, who runs our product, we just kicked this off. How can we use someone's spending data to think about the right loan product that's appropriately priced? I think one of the things, and one of the ideas we're playing around with or two ideas actually. One is it a payday replacement loan, right? So a payday loan can cost somewhere for 2, 3, 4, 500%. If you know somebody's cash flow, you might say, you know what? I only need to charge you 10, 15% because I know what your cash flow is, and I'm using data to come up with a lending product that fits your cash flow, which is the second idea that we play around with, particularly gig economy workers. So more and more of us don't have the traditional, I get paid on the 15th and the 30th. More and more of us are getting paid, I just did this Uber ride and that's going to pay my light bill today or whatever. And so if we can one of the ideas we're playing around with is, can we maybe match the repayment of a loan with when somebody gets paid based on a inconsistent but consistent, you don't know, it's not the 15th and the 30th, so it's inconsistent, but you're getting paid regularly. And can we have a loan that's appropriately priced for that? So Mayor Jackson, if it's okay, we'll reach out through Phyllis to you. We'll be in St. Louis next week, and maybe we can do some brainstorm about what makes sense from your perspective.
Absolutely.
Perfect. And so, what have you found to be the most effective ways to actually build Black generational wealth?
So I deeply believe that there are three components to building wealth. Two of them are home ownership. I mean, the fact that Black home ownership today is worse than it was when President Johnson signed the Fair Housing Act in 1968 is a problem, right? And you can't tell me that Black folks, we are not responsible homeowners. I don't believe that, but there are structural things that we need to address to get home ownership rates to our white counterparts. That being said, it's still one of the top ways of creating wealth in our communities. The second is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship doesn't have to be the likes of Mocafy, except I'd love everyone to be able to go out and raise venture capital money and build a great business. But sometimes it's just building that company that generates $1, $2, $3, $400,000 a year. That is a lifestyle business and the statistics are clear. Folks who are entrepreneurs are 5 or 6 times wealthier than individuals who are not entrepreneurs. I just want to just go back. And the third piece actually is, even if you're able to do those first 2 things, there's a third thing in our communities, which I think is very problematic. I know the Bloomberg folks are thinking about this. Not enough of us have insurance and wills. So if we've gone through the process of creating the wealth, buying the home, building the business, you look up and the person who was able to put all that together has a hole in the bucket. They didn't figure out the insurance policy to make sure the bills can get paid when that person's gone, or even pay enough to bury the person. And then the other piece that is the will, and who actually owns the right to the asset. And you've got, I was just talking to someone today. Mother died. Fortunately, they've got a lot of land, but she's got 14 siblings. So you go through the end of this process, there might not be anything left. So I think I think we need to make sure that the conversation is creating wealth and retaining it after the person who's created is gone. I just want to back up on one particular thing about home ownership. One of the things that I worry deeply about is I think that the renting is 21st century sharecropping. And by that, I mean, if you're a renter and you are spending money every month on time, that's simply an economic transfer to someone who owns the underlying property. And that underlying property is increasing in value. You're paying the rent every month, but at the end of it, all you get is a thank you very much for paying your rent. And the underlying individual has an asset that's gone up 5, 10, 15, 20% a year. And so we need to have a real reckoning around how do we own assets, own property, so when we're paying every month on time, A, it's reflected in your credit score, and B, it's going towards an asset that's increasing in value over time.
I am so glad you brought up that. Stacey, he must be reading our mind, because our upcoming sessions will be on wills and trust and heirs property and how we pass it on. It's so funny that you said that. We're partnering with Independence Bank, the CEO, Kenneth Kelly, that some of you guys may know, who has built a tool that once you input your information, it actually spits out your will. So mayors, you'll get to hear a lot about that and how many constituents wealth you'll be able to save. Nicole, same question. What are your thoughts?
I think that Wale is absolutely right. And having that information about the interest rates and how to purchase a home and how to build up your nest egg so that you can purchase a home, all of those roads lead back to information, education. The more that we educate ourselves and inform ourselves, then we can learn more about these sorts of opportunities. And cities often offer programs for first-time home buyers. Well, how can you learn about it? You can learn about it by using, going to their websites or reading the paper and et cetera. So those are some of the things that we need to do to continue building and talking to our children, educating young people, mentoring and helping them understand that all these steps are really important so that they can build wealth. I think just these are kind of drops in the bucket toward getting this information and moving ahead.
Mayor Scott, I'm not sure if you're still sitting in a program and you're listening or you're able to log on right now. But Mayor Scott is a former banker, and I wanted him to have a couple of closing remarks before Stacey closed out the session. There he is. He's a man of all kind of movements. He goes from one spot to the next spot. So I didn't know if he was in the car being driven to the next spot or not. So Mayor Scott, I know you've been listening. Any closing remarks as a former banker and all things we discussed today?
Yes, first and foremost, thank you all involved with EMLI, the partners, the funders. We're so grateful here at the African American Mayors Association for your work as you help us to do the work. And so as we work collaboratively together and how we bring and one, not only bring wealth, but focus on closing wealth gaps within our respective cities across this nation. It starts with all of us as we work together. I think a key component is always starting early as it relates to financial literacy, to really train our children, as well as our elder brothers and sisters who weren't able to be trained. And the more that we can focus on financial literacy and education, the better we will be in closing those gaps. But moving from the financial literacy is ensuring that there's technical assistance available for workers as well as entrepreneurs on how we can utilize discretionary income if you're a worker to really get into entrepreneurship, as well as savings and investments to build wealth. But from an entrepreneurship standpoint, what we can do to ensure that we're most positioned to scale up. And that's how we build that wealth as we move together and working collaboratively with one another. So that being said, there's a lot of work to be done. I'm grateful that we're working together to get this done as we move forward together. So thank you on behalf of the African American Mayors Association.
You guys, for the mayors that are on the call, I want to ask a funny question. How old were you when you got your first bank account, Mayor Scott?
I think got my first bank account was when I was getting ready to go off to college. And so being a former banker, I think you really switch your bank accounts based on life stages, whether it's, you turn 18. Most of you are going to keep the same bank account until you get married or divorced. And then as you focus on different life stages with your children.
Perfect. Mayor Cantrell, I know you're muted. How old were you?
I was 15.
Oh, so, she was starting early. That's what I'm talking about, Mary.
Well, I've been working since 14. Started at Del Taco, then I was drive-through queen at McDonald's, and then I had I opened up my account then. When you're making $3.15 an hour.
Hey, Mayor Jackson, are you still on? How old were you when you got your first bank account?
I got my first bank account when I was 19, started it with $100. And, but being a young man that worked through the week and partied on the weekend, I usually went through whatever I saved by the time Monday morning came.
Okay.
Education and finance is very important in our community. And I hope y'all read the scenario I gave in the chat, because I think that's very important, where we have predatory, not only lenders, but predatory businesses in African-American communities. One of them is these storage facilities. And I'm sharing in the chat that a woman in Kentucky paid a storage company to store furniture and stuff $64 a month for 27 years. And her children didn't find out until she passed away. And so they moved all the stuff out of the storage company. And when you calculate how much it cost that woman to pay $64 a month for 27 years, and you wonder why we're not ahead as a people.
Yeah, amazing story. I'm so glad the mayor shared when they got their first bank account. I was actually 13, summer jobs program. And my mother was like, first paycheck, you got to get a bank account. So there you have it. So Stacey, close us out.
Thank you everyone for joining us. That was a robust hour that went by very quickly. We've recorded today's session and we'll make it available online. You'll be able to see the links to the products discussed today with the Emily LinkedIn group. Special thanks to our partners at the Black Wealth Data Center, Mocify, and ServiceNow for closing out our session around wealth. Our next session will be on February 9th, 2023, focusing on home ownership. Be sure to follow us on social media at Our Mayors and visit us online at ourmayors.org. Thank you for joining us today. This concludes our session.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Mayor.